Alrighty, Wade. How you doing today, Coach?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Oh, I'm doing well. I wanted to ask you, something about like every single day when I get go out of my room, I like check the weather. I looked in Scotland right now. It's like 30 degrees colder than in Guthrie, Oklahoma. So I'm wondering, what's the coldest soccer match you've ever played in, coached, been a part of?
Wow. First of all, it's always 30 degrees colder in Scotland than it is here, it seems like. No, man, there's been some really cold games. I remember years and years ago in Stillwater, we hosted Iowa State. Karen will probably remember this. It's going way back to like probably 2000 or something. And it was brutal. Like the wind chill was negative and it was howling. And yeah, that's one of the coldest I've been at a soccer game. And then um, I'm trying to remember, not so much playing in a game. I remember when I played in college, we played at Old Dominion in a conference tournament match. And so it was, mid-November and it was sleeting. And I was on the bench. I'd been injured, so I was sitting on the bench. And that might be the coldest I've ever been because I wasn't on the field and I had a big blanket on. And yeah, and I'll tell you what, it's worse recruiting. A lot of times we'll go to watch these kids play, and we're just standing around. They're running, and sometimes standing there recruiting, it's brutal. So yeah,
And then when it comes to a game, like it's not going to get that cold this weekend for this match. But I was looking at the weather app, and it should start getting colder. Does it at all impact your coaching strategy when games are going to start getting cooler?
not really. I mean, you're just relying on the kids to be tough and play through it. It's the same for both teams. Now, if you're playing in like a snowstorm against a team from Minnesota or something, that probably gives them an advantage. But as far as just being cold, I think it's more about the kids just being tough and dealing with it.
Mhm. Thanks, Coach.
Sure.
I'm going to bounce kind of off that, and I'm going to talk. Let's talk about a little more about the Kansas game and what you saw in the first half, specifically before everything changed with the goal right before it. You went into the halftime locker room. What did that late of a goal kind of do in terms of like what tactical adjustments you were going to do?
Yeah, it was a tough goal to lose, and obviously the timing of it wasn't great. Look, we weren't very good in the first half. Our kids recognized that, and we just seemed it was hard to put a finger on it. We were a step slow. We didn't move the ball as quickly as we normally do, and so we weren't very happy about our first half performance anyway. And we actually made a change halfway through the first half. We went with two high forwards where we'll have one up there. We had two high and two underneath because we recognized that we weren't putting enough pressure on Kansas's back line. So we had made that change mid first half, and we felt like it got a little bit better when we did that. So at halftime, if we went in 0-0 or 1-0, we were still going to have the same conversation. They got a little do better talk is how I'd like to phrase it, kind of like Eddie Sutton used to say. Nobody's throwing anything or punching anything, but we were all frustrated with the first half. And so, we told the kids it was disappointing, and, we just expect so much better from them. And to their credit, I thought the second half we came out with more fire and we took it to them a little bit. But, I still don't think we played to our capability the second half, but I could at least, come out of the second half saying our kids fought hard and left it on the field, which as a coach, a lot of times that's really all you ask for.
And then from your perspective, what are some unwritten rules that kind of go into coaching a soccer match?
Well, I guess, what do you mean by unwritten rules?
Just things that people wouldn't think about as like factoring into a lot of tactical decisions you have to make. Like what sort of things do you have to know how to do that people don't like expect?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is what the opposition does. We all scout each other and we watch video. And if somebody throws something at you that you haven't seen, you've got to be able to make an adjustment in game. The TCU game is a great example of that. I thought they had a great game plan to play against our system. And we as coaches did not do a good enough job of in-game adjustments to help our kids. So, that's something that I take personally. And if we're faced with a similar situation, no doubt we'll be better equipped to deal with that. And then, you know, I think if you're winning or losing, it can determine what you do. So, for example, Kansas, once they got that goal, they were already tough to break down with numbers, but they sat even deeper. And it was really hard for us to penetrate and get chances at goal because they were protecting that lead. And then, you know, late in the game, we just threw, I think we had 3 forwards and, 4 mids and like 2 defenders at the end of the game, because we don't care if we lose 2-0 or 1-0. It's still a loss. We had to go for it. So, you know, little things like that are probably what people might not see, you know, as they're watching the game on TV. Those are little decisions you have to make in the game, I think.
And then last thing, whenever something happens and the other team makes an adjustment, is your like philosophy more to predict what adjustment they're going to make, or is it more to react to the adjustment that they're going to make?
I think we all try to predict, but you know, that's hard to do because, you know, you're not at training, you're not in the meetings with the other team. So I think we all try to predict, well, I bet if we do this, they might do this, but ultimately you're kind of reacting, and you hope they're reacting to what we do. So, you know, we've played a certain style and system for about 3 or 4 years now, and our kids are very comfortable in it. So our philosophy is more, we're not going to change drastically. I don't think that could do more harm than good, I think, at this point. But we do tweak little bits and pieces within what we're doing to try to maximize, you know, how we can hurt the other team. So we really focus more on ourselves and being the best we can be within our system. And then we tweak little bits and pieces for the opponents depending on what they do.
Thanks, Coach.
Of course.
Hey, Coach, one thing I wanted to ask you about was kind of now that we're a little ways through the season and the roster rotations and stuff have been kind of more solidified, it seems that both Kionna and Grace have really carved out starting roles for the team as freshmen. How big of an accomplishment is it to start for OSU as a freshman?
Well, it's a big deal. You know, first of all, when we recruit these kids, we know they're good players, and we watch them play with their club team, and you try to get to know them as people as best you can, but it's, you know, your interaction's quite limited. And until they get here and actually respond to our coaching and get in with our group and figure out their role, it's really difficult to predict who's going to hit the ground running. And what I've learned over the years, I think if we bring in 6 freshmen, 2 of them are going to be most likely right where we thought they'd be. 2 of them are going to be a little bit behind, and 2 of them are going to be better than we thought they were. You just don't know which kid's going to be which until they get here. And then the other thing we've learned is some kids, you know, Key's sitting right here. She's hit the ground running, but she'll be the first to tell you in preseason she had some struggles to go through. And it wasn't until the game started and she got some confidence and felt good about herself that she was able to really show what she can do. So I think some of it's opportunity. Some of it, of course, is ability. And then some of it, you know, some kids are just on different timelines. We've had kids come in as freshmen that you would watch them and think there's no way they're going to be able to play in the Big 12. And then by their junior year, they're starting because they just took a little bit longer to develop. So we're real big. It is a big accomplishment to get significant minutes as a freshman. But we're real big on reminding all of our kids, look, you're all on different pathways. Don't judge yourself. Don't compare yourself to another freshman. You know, your time might come in 2 years or 1 year or 6 months. Just because somebody else is starting doesn't mean that you're finished. So, you know, kind of balancing that out.
Yeah, and I guess a quick follow-up, is it, you know, as someone with not a great, you know, historical recollection of the team, like, is it common for freshmen to start? I guess how many, like, average freshmen are starting on the team per year out of 11 players? Can you
it really depends on the year. You know, it depends how many seniors graduated the year before. You know, if we open up 5 starters graduate, then there's a lot more opportunity for the new kids to come in and play immediately. Even though you may have some really good kids coming in, you know, if you've got a senior, junior laden team that had a lot of success, it's hard to break into that group. So really depends on the year. You know, we had 1 year we started 7 or 8 freshmen late in the year, and needless to say, we did not win a lot of games that year. But that was more about we graduated 7 or 8 seniors that had been to the Elite 8. So sometimes that just takes time, and then those kids develop into a really nice team. And you know, you look at kids like JC Jones from last year. You know, JC didn't start right away her freshman year. Hannah Webb didn't start right away her freshman year. Charmaine was in and out of the team as a freshman. So, you know, whereas Kim Rodriguez started from day one and never looked back. So I think there's so many different factors that go in, but I think the two you mentioned, Key and Grace have done a really nice job.
Awesome. And then on a different topic, last week I wrote about how fields can change across the Big 12. Something I was wondering about this week is, can the soccer balls, the game balls themselves change across the Big 12? Have you found that there's a difference between the soccer balls that are provided for games in Neil Patterson Stadium versus the ones that may be provided in Waco or Lawrence?
Yeah, they are. And I think a lot of it just has to do with the name brand. So we're a Nike school, so our game balls are top of the line Nike. And if we go play, say, TCU, they may have the exact same balls that we do because they may also be a Nike school. You go to Texas Tech, they're Under Armour, and they use the Wilson NCAA championship balls. Those are a little different. And then KU are Adidas, so we played with the Adidas ball up there. And so it doesn't, it's certainly not a huge factor, but it can, it can make a little bit difference. They carry a little differently, or they might knuckle a little bit more than the other one. But yeah, it's something we all have to deal with.
Do you guys prefer Nike balls? Or, I mean, assuming it's a pretty biased opinion, I'm guessing, because you are a Nike school, but do you prefer one or the other?
Not really. I mean, I prefer Nike probably just because that's what we're used to and we have been for many years. But, when we play in postseason at the Big 12 and NCAA tournament, Wilson right now is the brand that have won the licensing agreement with the NCAA. So we actually have to train with those late in the year just to get used to them a little bit. So it can make a little bit difference, but there's different quality balls and all across the different brands, I think.
I see. And the last thing I'll ask you about is, I know in OSU intramurals for Sam volleyball, they made sure to sanitize the ball in between each set. I'm not sure if that's a priority in college soccer. Do you know if there's anything being done to the balls for sanitation-wise before the match?
Yeah, they are. This year, I don't think they have historically, but with COVID, we sanitize them every practice before and after. We sanitize them before the game, and the people who are the ball persons who are keeping the ball in play, they actually all have a sanitizer gun as well, and they're spraying them down as they come off the field. So I can't say that's necessary or that it helps, but I guess it makes people feel better that, trying to keep them safer.
Interesting. Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, Coach. Hey, Coach, I was just going to ask, so starting the season, your team started 3-0, and unfortunately, in the past 3 games, you were winless. So my question to you is, how does a coach like you get their side out of a mini slump?
Yeah, it's hard, right? It's one of the hardest things in sports, I think. And I've been doing this a long time, and I've got some things right and some things wrong over the years. But I've really learned, I think, there's a time to come after your team and let them have it a little bit, but it's not when they're losing. They're already a little bit fragile. So, we were all upset for Friday night. We were all upset Saturday, and I think that's healthy. But Monday when we came to training, it's positivity. It's, hey, we're still a good team. We've got some great players. Some of you need to perform a little better. I think we'd all recognize that, but we also recognize that, we didn't become a bad team overnight. We just, we scored 7 goals in the first 3 games and 1 in the last 3. Well, it doesn't take a coaching genius to figure out. We just got to put the ball in the net a little bit better and we'll be fine. So we've been pretty positive with them this week. And, I think they've earned that. And I usually get upset if it's an effort issue. If we're getting out hustled, out worked, out competed, my team knows that. I get upset with that. If we get outplayed by a better team on the night, I take my hat off to the other team and say, great job. And if our kids have an off night with their shooting or their passing or their skills, I mean, that's sports. So I don't get too upset with that. So that's why Friday, first half, I was a little disappointed because I did think it was a mental and effort issue. And to me, that's not acceptable for this group. But they know that. And to their great credit, they came back in the second half and played harder. So I would expect a real positive response. I don't know if we'll win Friday night or not, right? It's sports in Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think our kids will come out and play hard and play with confidence, and that's what I would expect from them.
All right. My second question to you is, so, after these performances, the week leading up to the next game, are there any points of emphasis in training that maybe shooting is shooting is something you work on more than defense.
Yeah, for sure. This week, like I said, the 3 games, 1 goal is just, you're not going to beat anybody if that's your output. And, we talked a lot. That's not just on the forwards and the attacking kids, because we could do a better job on our corner kicks. Maybe we can get a goal there. We could do a better job on our free kicks. Maybe we can get a goal there. Our backs and midfielders can do a better job passing and setting up the attacking players. So it's a collective. It's certainly not all on the shoulders of the attack. But yes, that's what we addressed all week. We talked about our finishing, we talked about our technique, we talked about our confidence a little bit, and just making sure we have that little extra 5% effort, 5% concentration to put the ball in the net. And, it's a fine line. I always equate it with these guys to like basketball. If you've got a shooter that misses, has a couple of bad games, you can't tell them to stop shooting. They have the ability to do it. So, we're telling Liv, we're telling Yokes, we're telling G, Megan, all of them, keep shooting. You're liable to get 2 shots against Texas, score 2 goals, and we win 2-0, and everything's good again. So we're just trying to be really supportive and let the kids know you're still good players. We're going to get there.
Awesome. My final question is, so, from these past 3 games, 2 of the losses have been a goal or less. So just how much does it sting to lose such a close match like that? I know Kansas, they scored on their only shot on goal.
Yep. No, it hurts but in the Big 12, most of the games are tight. That's just the way it always is historically. There's a few outliers, but most of the games are 2-1, 1-0, overtime, things like that. So we're used to it. And it's just fine margins. We beat West Virginia with 20 seconds left in overtime. I'm sure that stung those guys, and we felt great. So you can't get too low when TCU beats us in overtime in a tight game. It's just good teams playing against each other. So, yeah, I mean, it hurts. We're competitive people. I hate losing at anything. And, our kids, I think, have the same mentality. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. So it definitely hurts us, but we understand it's really fine margins that determine if you win or lose those games. And that's on us. We have to do a better job in those crucial moments of being better. And like I said, these kids are tough. They'll come out and play really hard Friday. And I truly believe if we play up to our capability, we'll win the game Friday. And all of a sudden, everything looks a little bit better.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Coach.
Yeah, no worries.
Hey, Coach, before you sit up and leave, I actually had one more question for you, a follow-up. Is it easier to play a game when it's 100 degrees outside or 25 degrees outside?
You'd have to ask the individual. For me personally, 25, because I grew up in Scotland, and I think I'm more comfortable in that. But, if you're Brazilian, you're probably thinking 100 degrees a little bit better. So, but I think most soccer players would rather play in a colder climate than hotter, simply because you don't fatigue quite as easily. I'm looking at the 2 girls here, they're both nodding their heads. So, I think, I'm not sure 25, but, if you're like 40 to 70, that's probably good. You start getting over 90, man, that's tough. That takes it out of you.
What's the hottest game you've ever been a part of?
Well, there was one summer, Camy might have been here. We played, I want to say it was OU early in the season, and the heat index was like 110. It was silly. And, you got water breaks, but I mean, that changes your substitution patterns a little bit,
Yeah. Gotcha. Thanks, Coach.
All right, you got it. You guys ready? All right, we'll get the girls in.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, you got it, guys. See ya.
See ya.
So I guess I'll ask about that 100-degree game against OU. Is that something you remember?
Yeah, I remember it. It really sucked, but just really hard because like you're worrying about it before the game, just making sure you're hydrated, and then after the game, you can definitely feel it, how dehydrated you get and stuff like that. And so it was not a fun experience. I just remember playing and it was horrible. Just how hot it was.
Did you just just get this game over with? Did you want to play in those last 20 minutes, or were they just brutal?
I mean, you always want to play when on the field, but looking at the clock, I looked at it and 20 seconds had gone by and I was like, oh, good. And then, you look at it again and another 20 had gone by and you're like, this is going to be a long game. So just got to grit your teeth.
I mean, you're from Texas, right? I'm sure you've had your fair share of 100-degree games.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I feel like a lot of the girls on the team are from Texas, but I don't think it makes it any easier, just because you've played in 100 games, you just know what to expect, I guess. You're just like, this is just going to suck.
So would you say those are worse than, the 25-degree games Coach Carmichael grew up playing in?
I don't know. I don't really like either, just because like the Kansas game, I was like shivering at halftime, and so like I was super cold, and so but at the same time, you don't fatigue as easy like as fast. So honestly, I wouldn't want to play in either condition, but I think that probably 25 is going to be easier, but it's a lot harder to get like warm. Not only like warm wise as like you're not shivering, but warm like muscles wise. So it's like a pick your poison kind of there.
Yeah, I got you. Well, hopefully we'll be somewhere in the middle of that this Friday. Thanks.
Hey, Camy, I was just going to ask you, so um as one of the several seniors on this team, going into Friday, what is your message to your teammates at this point in the season trying to recover from a mini slump?
Yeah, I mean, we've all been there kind of in soccer and like in sports in general, that you kind of have a couple losing, like you lose 2 or 3 in a row, and you just really got to grit your teeth. It's going to take like a couple extra percentages of effort. It takes all of us willing to put our bodies on the line for each other. As a senior, like this is possibly my like last season, and so this is our second to last home game, and so my family's coming up. Everyone has family coming up, and so really we just got to grit our teeth and do it for each other. I mean, we've made so many sacrifices throughout the season, like not for soccer in general, and because it's been like a COVID season, and I really think that an extra 5% or an extra run or something like that can make the difference in the game, especially with how good Texas is and any Big 12 game. So I would just say that we got to do it for each other and lay our bodies on the floor for it.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to clarify. You said everyone's family is coming up to the game on Friday?
No, I said like all my family's coming
Oh,
up to the
okay.
game, or like my parents will be coming up to the
Okay.
game and stuff like that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Hi, Camy. I just wanted to ask. I guess we kind of talked about it a little bit. So I guess how things can vary from stadium to stadium. Last week I wrote about how fields can change. From different cities that you play in. But about the balls, I guess I'll ask you about the Adidas ball, since it might be a little fresh in your mind with the Kansas game. How does a Nike ball compare to an Adidas ball? Do you see any difference?
Honestly, it's all just soccer to me. I mean, it's a ball on a rectangular field, so at the end of the day, like I feel like it doesn't matter much to me. It may matter more to like a different player or anything, but it's just like it's kind of like shin guards to me. They're just there, like everything else. I don't think it makes any difference in the. I don't think it makes a difference in the game. I feel like the team that capitalizes more chances or has more effort and stuff like that will win the game.
That's probably a fair comparison. I guess the thing I've always wondered is also about like the pattern. Do you notice any changes, I guess, when the ball is like in flight spinning about the pattern of the ball?
No, I honestly didn't. I mean, like some balls you can tell like a different like texture on it, where it's like more sticky, I guess. But with the balls on Friday, I didn't notice anything different from like the ones we've been using or like ones we've used in the past. So I felt like it was if it was different, it was a very marginal amount.
Okay, I got you. That's probably good. You don't want to play with a bowling ball one week and a beach ball the next. So I'll ask about another topic now. I'm just wondering, as a senior, you've seen, I guess, a lot of freshmen. How impressed have you been with both Grace and Kionna? Starting as freshmen, how impressed have you been with their play so far?
Well, Kionna's in the room, so I can't talk bad about it. No, but honestly, this has been like a super hard environment to come into with COVID and everything, and not having any like really warm up games. We just went straight to the Big 12, and as they will find out next year, non-Big 12 games are just different. The Big 12 is historically like very rough, and it's a hard environment to come into. Not only just with what's on the line, like the stakes, but with officiating and home field advantage, things like that. And so they'll find out next year how different it is playing non-conference games and actually having that preparation, hopefully. But no, I've been super impressed, like with Grace Dennis playing in the middle with me. They've just taken it in stride. They've been troopers about everything, and they don't complain. They just grit their teeth just like everybody else. And I've been super impressed with their ability to not only not only perform on the field as like freshmen, but perform as soccer players in general, and they're not letting like things get to them. And they're like showing leadership on the field. So it's been really great to play with them, and especially in this environment, it's just makes everything even more impressive.
Yeah, and this would have been, I guess, a few weeks ago now. But for the first game of the season, how do players find out they're starting? Are they told like the morning of the game, or is it maybe they're just told who's supposed to run on the field right before the whistle? How are players told who's starting?
So like for home games, we find out the day before. Like the practice. So like if our game's Friday, we'll find out on Thursday who's starting before we start practice and stuff like that. And then on traveling days, we'll practice Friday morning, and we'll find out Friday morning who's going to start that night.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Camy. So one thing I was wondering was when you're on the field and you're just playing the match out, what do you hear from like Coach Carmichael whenever he's calling things from the sideline? And then what's the difference between that and whenever you're in the locker room at like halftime?
Yeah, when I'm on the field, normally what I hear from him is whenever he's yelling at me, from like and it's like he has to make his volume a lot louder too. So it's a lot more intense during the game, just because it's like he's trying to talk over the fans, and he's trying to talk over other players, and he's trying to make sure that I hear him. And so I would say that like the difference is probably like just the intensity. And then during halftime, it's more of like, here's a correction and here's why. And like more of do you have any questions, things like that. And so it's more, he explains it more, things like that. It's more of a calm atmosphere so that way, like I'm calm and I'm supposed to understand it. And then on the field, it's like a yelling kind of. And then it's like, and I'm just like, have to take it in stride, no questions, just do it. Like, and so I think like the difference is just kind of like, I guess, the intensity of the delivery, but there's nothing he can do about that.
And how important is it to really understand it like in the heat of the moment, like know exactly what he's talking about? And does that usually come across, or is there ever like miscommunications?
Yeah, I think it kind of like depends on what he's communicating. There's like certain times that he's like told me during the heat of the moment that I need to switch the ball more. And so like one of those things could be important, like is very important, because I need to switch the ball for like staying on one side and things like that. And so but if like I don't hear it or I don't complete it, he can tell me at halftime. Some of the other things like positionally wise, or like if the other team is running a formation that we didn't expect or that is hurting us in a certain place, that can be like extremely vital to understand and to know and to hear and communicate, because of our inability to possibly make up for like where they're hurting us, or like how their formation is, could potentially obviously lead to a goal. So I think it kind of depends on the situation, and if we can make it to halftime, normally like we'll fix it second half. But for the most part, it's like generally it's important. Sometimes it's hard to communicate all the way across the field, so like the sideline that's right next to him, it's easier to fix something, but if it's on the other side, it's hard to communicate all the way across the field. So it's like playing a game of telephone all the way across, because then like who, like let's say we're Charmaine's on that side, Charmaine has to tell Kionna, and Kionna has to tell Allie, and Allie might have to tell me, and I have to tell Hannah Webb or something like that. So it's kind of like a game of telephone by the time it gets down to the side, and it's also like hard because it's in a loud environment as well. So I think it just kind of depends on what the information is.
Is it different whenever you're on the opposite side of the field as the majority of the crowd is, or does that communication get more easily passed that whenever you're going against the noise or with the noise?
Do you mean like horizontally across the field, or like?
I mean, like, so I think it was Baylor. You guys were lined up on the far side of the field, like away from where all the stands were. So you were facing the stands. Is it harder to like communicate whenever you're talking to somebody, but the person you're trying to get it to is really close to the stands, whereas farther away from the stands?
Yeah, I think that obviously the stadium is gonna wherever the fans are, it's going to create a more of an interference for like sounds and things like that. So it obviously can make it more difficult whenever you're by like the fans and things like that. However, like if the coaches are on one side and the fans on the other, I think it's easier for the side that's not on the fans to hear it, opposed to if the fans were on the same side that the coach was. But it's still the opposite side of the field is going to have difficulties whether there's fans over there or not, just because of the it's in the game. There's noise everywhere. It just can be difficult.
Thanks, Camy.
Yep.
Appreciate it, Camy.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, guys, I guess I'll get us started real quick. I just wanted to ask, first off, and you kind of heard our previous conversation, so you might know where this is going a little bit. Were you expecting when you came to OSU that you'd be starting your freshman year?
Oh, most definitely not. Because, he honestly, makes it clear, we already knew that there was, 11 incoming freshmen coming in, one of them being a keeper. So there's 10 field players that you're going to have to be better than. And then you also had to, take in consideration, you had the older girls that were already returning that were already been here. And it's honestly, I didn't know if I would. I didn't know if I would start, if I'd play any minutes. I really didn't know until he just let us know.
So how happy were you? Do you remember the moment when, I guess the first game of the season, Kansas State, you found out that you'd be starting? Do you remember when he told you that? What was that like?
He was he told us the lineup, and I was like, really? I was like, okay. So, honestly, I was really happy. So I was but it was in the group, so we're focused. So I was okay, internally I'm jumping around, but externally I'm just okay, that's sweet. But no, he told me at warm up, I remember, because I was kind of nervous, and he was just play your game, you know what you're capable of, just do it, play how I played before I was recruited. When I was recruited, he was you were playing well, so just play like you've always done. He goes, no, you shouldn't have a problem. And I was okay, it helped a lot, ease the nerves. I was okay, I don't want to mess up. It's my first time, my first game where I didn't want to mess up at all. So it helped a lot.
No doubt. How has it been? I guess, how do you think you and Grace have been doing starting? How's that been?
I think it's been really fun. I'm glad that there's another freshman there, so it's I'm not the only one or whatever, but Grace has been doing really well, especially right in front of me, because she's usually on my side of the field. She's done really well. You can tell we're all starting to get back in our groove, how to play, getting that chemistry with each other on the field. So I think we're all doing well. I think we're just improving each game and each practice, just making sure we just play better than each game we've had.
Yeah, no doubt. And I guess quickly, last thing I'll ask you is, do you notice any of the difference between an Adidas ball and a Nike ball or an Under Armour ball? Have you noticed any of that?
Not really. I mean, the texture a little bit. It just depends on the ball. Sometimes the ball will be more sticky. Sometimes it's harder. It just kind of depends. I think it also depends who airs the ball up and how much the air they put in the ball, because that definitely dictates your touch on the ball and how it feels on your feet.
No doubt. Appreciate it. Good luck on Friday.
Hey, Kionna. So what I'm going to ask you is kind of bouncing off what I asked Camy. How good are you guys at playing telephone?
I think we're average. I mean, we're pretty good because you have to take in consideration, you hear Colin saying you need to talk to so-and-so because they need to change this on the other side of the field. So you have to take consideration you're playing in the middle of the game. You have to still listen to your other teammates talking to you, if you need to press, if you need to run, oncoming opponents, if you're passing the ball, who you're passing it to, all while trying to relay a message that he told you 2 passes ago. So it's kind of hard, but I think we get the gist of it pretty clear, honestly.
Does having more experience with playing with other players kind of make that a little bit easier to communicate?
Yeah, it just honestly kind of depends because each game is different. So each player's mentality is a little different. Yeah, we all have chemistry with each other. Some are closer than others, but we all play as a team. So when we speak, we're okay, gotta get it conveyed, but in a way it's not you're trying to disrespect that player. Because like we're all our own our own mental like head. Like we're just trying to think of, okay, am I playing my game well? Okay, am I doing this right? Okay, now he wants me to take this into consideration too. It's a lot. So I think I think we're pretty good at it, honestly.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, I was just going to ask you quickly. So, as a freshman, what are some pieces of advice or lessons that you have learned from upperclassmen on this soccer team?
I think the main things I've learned is mostly like you can only control what you can control in that moment. Don't worry so much about the whole game. Like, okay, how's second half gonna go? And you're still in the first half and 15 minutes into the first half. So definitely like just like keeping your head in the game. Like just at each moment, make sure you're doing the best that you can with the time that you have. Also, I think that just like being positive. Like like if it's a tough game, we know like everyone's gonna be on edge, but like mostly just like if you can keep a positive attitude, still uplift and like help critique critique each other like off the field, like okay, like this is what we need to do. Okay, this is the type of pass I need from you and like stuff like that. Like I think it's mostly just the positivity and just like our mental game that we just need. Like I've learned that we mostly just need to work on.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, Kionna, what's the craziest temperature you've ever played in a soccer game, whether it was really hot or really cold?
I don't remember. I know there was one game. Obviously, I'm from Texas, so it gets kind of hot in the summertime. So I know there was one game, and we were on turf, and it was like 100 and something degrees, but it feels like 10 to 15 degrees hotter because you're on the turf. So I felt like my feet were on fire, and it was definitely tough. It was hard as crap to play in, but then we had the water breaks, of course, but I don't really feel like that helped that much just because like you're still in that area, you're still in that same field, so it's like it's really hot. But mostly, yeah, because Texas doesn't get that cold, and if it does, it's like very rare. So
In that match on that turf you're talking about, do you remember like the score? Was it, I'd imagine, was everyone kind of tired and like 0-1 or something?
yeah, you can definitely tell we were tired. It was definitely a battle, just because if I get a beat the Heat, also like keeping in mind you need to play that like you're against your opponent. I'm pretty sure we won that game, but I don't remember. It was like a while ago, but definitely you could tell we were all battling like different components on that field.
Do locker rooms have air conditioning?
Sometimes it kind of depends on like the locker room we go to. Like sometimes we won't go inside the locker room, just for COVID reasons now. But the ones we have gone in, like Kansas when we played last Friday, it had a heater on, so I was very happy about that. I was like, I'm freezing. Like I'm glad there's like at least some heat in there. But yeah, it just kind of depends on the stadium and the locker room we go into.
And I don't know if you can remember this, but in that game you kind of described earlier, the one on turf, was that with like your club team or with your high school?
It was my club team. I think I was on Texans at that point. It was before I had moved and played with Solar. Um, yeah, that it was definitely hot. That's all I know. It was really hot.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, I'll jump in here like just for a second. I know our time's running out. Quickly, does a ball that's more aired up, is that easier or harder to kick?
Ball more aired up. It kind of depends. Sometimes they're heavier, so it's harder to kick it. Sometimes it's lighter, and it's like you feel like it's gonna pop or something like that. But usually they do really well. Like at least my freshman year here, like they do really well at airing the balls up. So like I never really have to worry about that too much.
All right, awesome. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.